Well, first off, Merry Christmas to everyone. And what I wanted to talk about today is the nature of spiritual teachings of basically all religions and all faiths, and how they are essentially upside down and backwards. And I also wanted to talk about a few other things. We'll see where I go. So, one thing that struck me the other day about how things are upside down and backwards. You know, the teaching that talks about, it's constant in most Eastern teachings of Hindu with gurus, and also just about all of them, how they talk about surrendering to your guru. And Christianity talks about surrendering to Christ, Jesus. And this goes on and on. And that's kind of true, but in a way it's upside down and backwards. And it's more upside down and backwards than it is correct. For instance, when you surrender, you're giving up to a higher power and authority. You're giving up. And think about the character of Jesus and how he basically surrendered to everyone that he was teaching. And in fact, he says, or it's taught, that he died for everyone on the cross through his atonement. That is a surrendering to a lesser power and authority. Then you have God the Father, who doesn't need anything from anyone, and he or it or she condescends to our level to create reality for us. So the concept of you surrendering to your guru is partly true, but it does you or the guru no good whatsoever unless the guru or saint or whoever is more surrendering to you than you are to them. It absolutely has to be that whoever your teacher is, if that person doesn't drag their lazy fat ass off of their chair of power and come down and kiss your feet, proverbially speaking, then that teacher isn't worth listening to. Because that teacher has an agenda, and that agenda isn't to benefit you. That agenda is to benefit them and their kind. They have to give up everything for you. That is the whole concept of the true deity that has created everything for you. That is the proper way. Now, you're never going to know what the guru is teaching you. You'll never know what the individual, be it a saint or whoever, is trying to teach you if you do not have absolute respect and love for the individual that's trying to teach you, and not for any other reason than if you don't do that, you create a blockade and you're not allowed to get what that individual is trying to teach you. So that's the aspect that's upside down and backwards. And it's very important. And any time you have a teacher that is teaching you, you should test that teacher. And if that teacher thinks they're better than you, acts like they're better than you, then it might be your perception. Your perception might be off. But test them. Somehow, some way. Test them. In Christianity, it's taught that Jesus left the 99 to go to the one that had gone astray. You should test any individual that has placed themselves in a situation where they have the right and ability to teach. You should test them. Because if they do not surrender to you, they're not worth your time of day. There's nothing wrong with taking instruction from them because it enhances your understanding of what they're teaching. But don't count on them to be the end-all be-all that's going to lead you into enlightenment or spiritual enlightenment. And now that I'm on the topic of enlightenment, enlightenment is another issue that is not well understood. The reason Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama, was assumed to be atheistic in some sense is because he only taught that which he knew that he had experience in. And he had no experience of God. So he didn't teach it. That doesn't mean he didn't believe in a God. That only meant he didn't know of a God, so he didn't teach about it. He only taught about enlightenment. Or not only. There's a lot of philosophy there. But enlightenment doesn't have, or the enlightenment that Buddha spoke of, does not necessarily have to deal with a tangible God, more so than it deals with the nature of this reality. And when a person is enlightened, as Buddha was, it's an experiential situation that takes place where the individual experiences reality for what it truly is, or shall I say what it truly is not. And they realize it's an illusory reality that we live in. Now, when I say experience, then the next question comes, what is experiencing the illusion? And if you say you, then you have to say, what is me? And then you have this physical body, you have this brain, you have this mind. You can surmise there's a soul or a spirit, but until you actually know, it's simply guesswork. So what is experiencing enlightenment? Because when you become enlightened, you realize that this isn't real. When I say this, I mean this physical body. An enlightened person, which are incredibly rare, don't speak of chakras, they don't speak of vibrations, they don't speak of any of these things because they know they're all illusory. They're not real. Chakras are not real. But we can speak of chakras because on a different level, that's like saying a hamburger isn't real. Well, if I am an enlightened person and I say, well, hamburgers are not real, and I refuse to eat, then I leave this realm from death. The body starves to death. So in fact, there are hamburgers, and the body must eat, or whatever it is, this thing that's experiencing enlightenment will not experience this anymore because it will be vacated from a dead body. So yeah, there are chakras, but they deal with the illusory part of this reality, just like spiritual vibrations, just like the light and all of these other things. They deal with this illusory reality, just like hamburgers do. The other thing I wanted to talk about is in Sanatana Dharma, or shall I say Hindu teachings, theology. There's no difference between Christianity and Hinduism. There's no difference in any religion because all religions emanate from the same source, the same deity, the same God, gods. They just have different names. They don't have different names. We as individuals have given them different names. So as I've said in my last video, we have different names for the different deities. One example is, for instance, and I was just kind of perusing this just recently, Brahman, Brahman, is referenced in Hinduism by some teachers as being not necessarily a god. And I kind of like that that concept, but all of that kind of stuff wraps around because you got Vishnu, you got Brahmin, and you I can't even think of the Luciferian one right now. You've got these gods that are the same regardless of what part of the world they came from or the teachings came from. They're all the same individual or individuals. But the interesting thing is if you study Advaita, the true meaning of it, which is not non-duality, by the way, and it isn't duality, but people don't understand what it is because they're uninspired. They don't have the inspiration from God to understand these things, and they don't have the love of God in their hearts, so they can't get that because it comes from God. Let me tangent right here, take you on a tangent, because here's the thing. People challenge me a lot of times in some of the videos I make because what I talk about or teach doesn't comply with what they think is true. But why do you think it's true? Why do you think that I don't know what I'm talking about? Because your God, for instance, let's say you're Hindu, or you study Sanatana Dharma, or you study Hinduism of whatever dialect or whatever, Christianity, whatever. What is the source that you believe is God? I will tell you, it is letters written on paper, like the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas and all these other things. That is your God. Your God is not this nebulous spiritual thing, issue, whatever it is that created this reality. Your God is a tangible book with letters written in it, and you pray to that. That is your God. You can deny it all you want, but it's true. Because if you disagree with me, why? Why do you disagree with me? Have you spoken to Brahman? Have you talked with Vishnu? Have you actually had a one-on-one conversation with this deity? No, you haven't. So don't tell me you know who your God is. Don't tell me I'm wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. You can't find what I teach in books because I didn't get it out of books. I got it from the source, just like Jesus got it from the source. And in Hinduism, we don't have any really good sources to speak of, because all of the like Krishna and all of these things that they speak of never occurred in this dispensation. When I say this dispensation, there's a YouTube video, and tangent again, by the way. There's a YouTube video that's called the Diehold Foundation. And it's as good of a explanation that I can come up with that answers why history seems to destroy itself about every 12,000 years. Because we have proof, evidence of pyramids that cannot be replicated. We have, and that's throughout the world, by the way. South America, the Americas here, in Eastern, there's temples. There's all kinds of things that were never built in this dispensation. They were 20,000 years ago or whatever. And we have no history books that delineate these sort of things, because it's wiped out about every 12,000 years. And it's provable. Where's the history? We don't have any. And we have, of course, we have scientists that say we came from monkeys not that long ago, and that's the most asinine thing I've ever heard of. So what reality is the Hindus, their Jesuses, if you will, did exist, but it was prior to this particular dispensation of 12,000 years. And every time the world is wiped out, there's a handful. I mean, the Adam and Eve story is just a story, no different than Sanskrit stories of Krishna and all these other things, and they talk about how the cycle happens. And there's a few people that survive the cycle each time, be it a handful or be it 500 or 1,000. And of course, it takes thousands and thousands of years for the population to grow back. And in Hinduism, the stories traveled from that particular dispensation to this dispensation through storytelling. And they get embellished over the years because they're just trying to pass on what they had prior to the collapse of society to their next generations. And over thousands of years, I mean, they don't have pencils and papers. They don't have anything anymore. It's been lost. It's all gone. So they have to reinvent the pencil and the pen and everything else, and it takes time. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And these stories eventually are starting to get written down. Sanskrit was written down, first writings after chantings that happened for thousands of years. And of course it gets embellished and things change and everything else. But there is a overriding evilness of this particular reality. As Jesus said, he is not the king of this particular realm. That his interactions with Satan prove beyond shadow of a doubt that Satan is the god of this particular world, this realm. And his power when I say his, Lucifer, Satan, his power comes through the creation of money. And I know that sounds crackpotty, but there's an incredible amount of things that I could teach you about that, and I have in other videos. But yeah, the upside down nature of this particular reality and everything we're taught. You can become enlightened, but that doesn't mean you're going to be enlightened to the Spirit of God. That's a different type of enlightenment, and you can get that too, but how do you get that? You just have to importune the deity of everything through love and compassion without ever giving up, and ask, just continually ask, not with a proud heart, but with a humble, compassionate, loving, because the creator of this universe or realm is a loving, compassionate God. It isn't what you're taught. Getting back to the original thing I was talking about, Brahmin, they speak of, well, first off, nothing in Hinduism has any way to explain anything beyond hyperbole, because it's too ancient to have any direct contact. Because you can ask any teacher, I don't care who it is, and their source is always a book. That's their God. Have you ever heard of a guru or a teacher saying, well, I can verify that this is true because I had one-on-one communication with Krishna? No, of course not. They always quote their source as the Vedas or this or that. Well, you might as well get rid of your guru and have a computer with all of that information in it and pray to the computer. It's the same damn thing. No, you have to get beyond the basics. You have to get your information directly from the source, the same way Krishna got it, the same way Jesus got it. You can get it too. But you can't surrender to a teacher that does not first surrender to you, because it's impossible. I'm all over the map here, ain't I? I want you to know that I do this because I love you. I don't do it for a personal agenda. I spent my life studying this because there's an eternal flame burning in my heart and soul to know God. And after many decades, I just feel the desire to help other people as I was helped. Sort of like a missionary. But it seems like 90% of my respondents are in the negative. In that most people criticize me rather than saying thank you, which is fine. I don't expect anything less than that. But I do know that there are more demons in this world than not. And that's just the way this particular reality is. But demon or not, we can all change. So I hold out hope. Anyways, again, it's Christmas Day, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about things that were twirling around in my mind, heart, and soul. And if there's any specifics anyone wants to know about, I'd be more than happy to talk about those things in a future video. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.